Gold Road, who are we? We're the explorer who discovered the world-class deposit Gruyere. Gruyere holds today 3.5 million ounces in reserve and nearly 6 million ounces in resource. We're located in Western Australia on the far eastern edge of the Yilgarn Craton. The mine, once in construction, will produce roughly 270,000 ounces over a 13-year mine life. There's way more upside there, as I'll tell you today. It will also produce at the lowest quartile all-in sustaining cost. In 2016, to assist with the funding of Gruyere, we ran a process and we did a joint venture with Goldfields selling half of the project. That gave us $350 million in cash, which fully funded our share of the expenditure on Gruyere and also gave us the chance to accelerate exploration on the Amana Belt, which we own 100%. Gruyere is currently in construction, as I'll mention, and we're also spending roughly about $22 million on exploration, really looking for that upside. So how do we come to own 100% of a world-class belt? Well, we did something differently. The Amana Belt, as I mentioned, is on the very edge of the Yilgarn Craton. It's too far for the prospectors to get out there. There's minimal water. It's covered majority by sand, so prospectors can't kick the dirt and find gold. Additionally, there was a survey done in 1970, I think it was. There was a geophysical survey which proved up that this was part of the Yilgarn Craton, but no one decided to go pick up the ground. There was some intermittent drilling done between 1970 and effectively 2006 when we put this package together. We did some early stage exploration. We found roughly close to 1 million ounces, but it wasn't enough to build a processing plant. So what do? We stepped out and we found Gruyere. So the package we hold, you can see just there on the screen, 100% except for those areas in yellow, which are difficult to see because they're so small. 144 square kilometres is the area that we have done a JV in with Goldfields. The rest we own 100%. So from top to bottom, that's 180 kilometres in length, roughly the distance from Perth to Bunbury. So let me just talk a little bit more about Gruyere. As I discussed, 270,000 ounces over a 13-year mine life. High quality build with a proven partner, Goldfields, who have several operations in Western Australia and something that we can really leverage off with their skills and knowledge. And we'll see that when we ramp up in commissioning. As I mentioned, a lowest quartile all-in sustaining cost of $950 per ounce. We're currently looking at updating that life of mine plan because these numbers are based on 2016 figures and we're aiming to improve on this. As I mentioned, it has a large reserve. We also have a larger resource, so there's plenty of upside if we can improve our efficiencies on cost or if the gold price increases. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that despite a lot of people saying that this is a low-grade operation, 1.2 grams per tonne, the one thing that we get out of this is efficiencies. It's such a large resource, such a simple deposit, that we can just go there and mine on a large-scale basis. We're not chopping and changing between going from large benches to small benches to mine the gold and avoid waste. We can literally just go in there with big-scale equipment and mine this very economically. So Gruyere is currently in construction. We're 68% complete, so just 2/3 of the way through construction, and the plant is roughly 51% complete, as you can see there. So it's a very large operation. Just to point out a couple of things, for example, the powerhouse, 42 megawatts, that's roughly going to power 42,000 houses here. And if you look at some of those leach tanks, they'll hold roughly the size of 12 Olympic swimming pools. So it's a very large operation that we're building here. In terms of the CapEx, on a 100% basis, it's $621 million. Gold Road's share of that is $284. Slightly different because as part of the sale, we'd negotiated a $50 million capital overrun facility with Goldfields, and we're seeing the benefit of that. So there has been some announcements of capital cost increases, and the majority of that has been picked up by Goldfields. Some of the cost increases has also been to do with scope changes. So with this being a 13-year life project, we have really focused on quality. We haven't cut any corners. And with having the additional money that we didn't have to go out and borrow debt and worry about paying the debt back as early as we could look at this and make some decisions that will add value over those 13 years. So that's led to the increase. But as I mentioned, we're fully funded. So construction currently is on track. We're looking at first gold pour in the second quarter next year. And then once we've hit that first gold pour, it will roughly be 6 months before we get to nameplate capacity of roughly 7.5 million tonnes per annum. Once we do get to that 7.5 million tonnes per annum though, we will look to push that. As I mentioned, we've spent some money, additional money, and we've bought larger components. So we've got a larger SAG mill, larger board mill, we've increased the size of the conveyors so that we can effectively accommodate 8.5 million tonnes per annum. So if we can push this another 1 million tonnes per annum, that will drastically reduce cost. We can spread another 1 million tonnes per annum over the same fixed cost basis, and there will be only marginal increases per unit. So one of the things too that we can look at if we do push this increase in throughput is we can accelerate the life of mine, increase our production to 300,000 ounces per year and reduce the mine life, or we can look at bringing in additional material, whether that's from Gruyere or, as you see on the screen here, the Golden Highway. The Golden Highway has roughly 180,000 ounces in reserve. This isn't currently in the mine plan and we're just about to update this now. So that is some certain potential that we can add to our mine plan. We also have roughly 630,000 ounces in resource currently. We'll look to convert more of that into reserve. We'll be looking at producing a maiden reserve for Montaigne and Argos this year, and we'll also look to increase those resources through a maiden resource on Orleans. So that potential reserve growth can be trucked. This is roughly 25 kilometres from Gruyere. It can be trucked economically to Gruyere, and we can increase both throughput, so pushing production of 300,000 ounces and mine life. So moving now to exploration. We're focusing on this belt here on 1 million ounce discoveries. So we found Gruyere, now we're stepping out and we're looking for 1 million ounce discoveries. We have the option of processing at Gruyere, but what we're looking for is standalone facilities that could justify another plant. So one of the concepts we've been thinking, if you owned 100% of the belt on Kalgoorlie 100 years ago, how many processing plants would there be? There's currently roughly 10 to 15, but we think ideally you could have 3 to 4. And so this is one of the things that's guiding our exploration, and one of the things that we're thinking about is how can we economically and efficiently mine this with minimising capital now that we own this 100%. And so that's one of the things that we're thinking of. So as I mentioned, we talked about the central hub, which is Gruyere and the Golden Highway. We also have the southern hub, which we've just repurchased 100% back from Sumitomo earlier this year for $7 million. And we have several deposits that we're really focusing on this year, which just hadn't seen the exploration being spent there through the joint venture of Sumitomo, and that was one of the reasons that we really wanted to buy this back, to accelerate that exploration. On the northern hub, we've been negotiating land access, so we've spent a fair bit of amount of time focusing on Gruyere, negotiating the no title, and now we've unlocked that northern hub and we're in there exploring. So in terms of exploration on the northern hub, there's Ibanez. So we've got several high-grade hits that we've had both there last year and this year, and we're currently following that up. One of the things which is testing us is the strike and continuity. Can we make this large enough to be a standalone deposit? If we can't, it's certainly got the grade that we could truck this to Gruyere by itself. Bloodwood, we tested earlier this year, the first time it's ever been drilled. This is a long strike of the Golden Highway. As I mentioned, this is roughly 600,000 ounces in resource. And we've just drilled this and we've got a 5 kilometre anomaly that will follow up next year. Romano, immediately to the north of Gruyere, completely untested. This is an area that we're currently drilling right now and we're just about to finish the program. Very excited to get in this area. I can't think of too many areas that haven't seen a drill hole immediately along strike of a 6 million ounce resource. In terms of the southern hub, Smokebush is probably our key priority target right now that we're drilling. Exceptional grades there, as you can see on the screen. We're testing the strike and continuity, seeing if we can push this and seeing if we can make a standalone discovery here. We've also got Top and Hill immediately to the south, which could help facilitate some further ounces if we do prove up Smokebush. Gilmore Morello is to the south again of the Golden Highway, an area that we've tested, proving grade here, and we're going to continue to explore this area and hopefully we can continue to announce results which we've currently achieved. And Tamerlane, another area just immediately to the south of Golden Highway, another area which previously hadn't been drilled, and we drilled earlier this year, 3 metres at 34 grams per tonne, is something that we will follow up again late this year. So in terms of what are we going to do with the cash flow from Gruyere, that's probably a question that is fair for investors to ask. We're looking at laying the foundations for a mid-tier producer. So in the first instance, we're looking at building and optimising Gruyere. We're then going to consider organic growth through the standalone deposits on our Yamana belt. We may consider M&A. We have done a joint venture with Cygnus on another area which was much unloved in the southwest of Western Australia. We're spending roughly $3 million there to earn in, and we'll consider similar opportunities there. But otherwise, we've got, for every $1 of revenue we earn, we'll have roughly 20 to 25 cents to give back to shareholders through either growth or dividends. So finally, in terms of just touching on our corporate profile, we have had a change in managing director. Ian Murray there, who has been instrumental in delivering the company into the position where it is retiring, and we have a new managing director who's just started, Duncan Gibbs. He comes from Anglo Gold and was responsible there for the commissioning of Tropicana, a very similar size project to Gruyere, and it's really exciting to have him on board to help out with commissioning and get Gruyere up and running. In terms of the capital structure, market cap roughly 600 million today, cash and equivalents is 163 million. So just in terms of our spend on Gruyere, we've spent roughly, it's about 150 million to date. We've got about 134 million dollars to go. So we are fully funded, and we have 150 million dollars in debt facilities for any other hiccups, or should we make a discovery, we can really push forward and move that forward. So in summary, we're looking to be we will be Australia's next gold producer. We're fully funded, a 50-50 joint venture with Goldfields, who's a proven partner, so it can really help us ramp this thing up. We've got less than a year to go to production, healthy margins, which we can look at delivering healthy returns, whether that's through growth or dividends. In terms of the share price catalyst to look out for, Gruyere in commercial production next year, mid-next year or thereabouts. Exploration success on our Yamana belt, and that's it. Thank you very much.